Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem. Okay, two topics I could not pass up. One is on the top of Nun Daled Amud Beis. The Gemara said that Abayei's teaching was taught before Rava. Rava said, Shaper Amar Nachmeni. Rava, not Rabba, Rava called Abayei Nachmeni. So this opens up an interesting discussion. What exactly is Abayei's name? So is his name Abayei or is his name Nachmeni? Okay, it's a very famous topic, but actually it has very important halachic nafkaminas, what his name was. Namely, the Ran here on Nun Daled Amud Beis says, Mai dimitaretz Abayei, that which Abayei answered, Masnisin de Me'ilah, leave the Rabbi Kiva to fit in the mission of Me'ilah according to Rabbi Kiva. V'amar lahain, Rabbi said, Shaper Amar Nachmeni. Nachmeni said, good. Who's Nachmeni? Hainu Abayei. V'kari lehachi, lefi shenizgadel bebayis Rabba bar Nachmeni. Abayei grew up in Rabba bar Nachmeni's house. So Rabba, for some reason, called him Nachmeni. Rabba's father was Nachmeni, so this kid that Rabba raised, he called Nachmeni. Why he named the kid after his father? Maybe he didn't have another child to name after his father, so he nicknamed him Nachmeni. So his real name is Abayei, and his nickname is Nachmeni. That's the shita of the Ran. The Rashbam says the same thing in Psachim Kuf Yud Beis Amud Beis. Rashi says the same thing in Gittin on Lamed Daled Amud Beis. But Rashi adds something. Says Rashi, Abayei, the hilchasa kenachmeni. The halach is like Nachmeni. Who's Nachmeni? Abayei. The Amar Giloi daita begita lav nosi. That Giloi das forget is nothing. V'zuhi achas mehelchos shel siman yal kagam. That's part of the yal kagam, the gimel, the hilchasa kabayei. V'nira beinai, says Rashi, in my opinion, the al shem sharabba bar Nachmeni gida Abayei, because Rabbi Nachmeni raised Abayei bebeisai v'limdu Torah shahaya yasaim hisiu as shem aviv Nachmeni. He gave him his father's name Nachmeni. Rabba Stam hu Rabba bar Nachmeni. Stam Rabba in Shabbos is Rabba bar Nachmeni. That's very interesting. So Rashi adds that because Rabba raised him, he called him after his father's name. Okay, that's the shita of the Ran, Rashi in the Rashbam in Psachim, Rashi in Gittin. There's another approach, and that is the shita of the Aruch. The Aruch is quoted by Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva in the Goy Nashas on Gittin Lamed Daled Amud Beis says, Al Shem Sharabba Uva Aruch Erech Abayei. The Aruch, who is Reb Nassan ben Yechiel. I was at his house in Rome. The Aruch. He's buried. His house is in the ghetto in Rome. Uba Aruch Erech Abayei Kasav b'shem Hagaonim de Nachmeni Shemai. No, his name was Nachmeni. His name was Nachmeni. His name wasn't Abayei. V'haya bar Achua de Rabba bar Nachmeni. He's the son of the brother of Rabba bar Nachmeni. Rabba had a brother. The brother had a kid. The brother named his kid after after his father. V'talmidei, and he's also the student of Rabba. V'kivan dehava shmei Nachmeni, since his name was Nachmeni, which is the name of Rabba's father, Kishem Avud, the Rabbi Nachmeni, lo have a korile b'chol shah Nachmeni. He didn't always want to call him his father's name, v'ya korile Abayei, because Rabba's father's name was Nachmeni. So you're not allowed to say your father's name. So if you're not allowed to say your father's name, how is Rabba going to refer to his student? So he gave him a nickname, v'ya korile Abayei, the lashon Aramis, ka'adam shekoire avi v'solek le Abayei. In other words, he gave him a nickname. The name is Tatala. The name in Yiddish, there is a minhag that if someone has the same name as your father, you don't call them the name. You call them Tatala. Now, the Goy Nashas is saying, according to the Aruch, the name was not Abayei. The name was Nachmeni, but Rabba didn't want to say it because that's his father's name, so he called him Abayei. What's the nafkamina between these two approaches? What's the nafkamina if you say like the Ran in Nedarm, the Rashbam in Psachim, Rashi in Gittin, that his name was Abayei, and he called him Nachmeni after his father? Or if his name was Nachmeni and he called him Abayei because he didn't want to say his father's name? It's a major nafkamina l'halacha. Are you allowed to call someone by your father's name? You're not allowed to say your father's name, but you're not allowed to say his name to him. Are you allowed to say his name to someone else? It would seem like the machlokes between the Aruch and the Ran, the Rashbam and Rashi is: Are you allowed to say your father's name to someone else? Are you allowed to do that? Yeah. So let's see if we have it here. The Rambam paskins in Hilchos Mamrim, Perek Vav, the Rambam says, Lo yeshev b'mekayma, you don't sit in his seat, v'lo soiser es dvarav, you can't contradict him, v'lo machriya es dvarav, v'lo yikra lo b'shmai, you're not allowed to call him by name, lo b'chayav v'lo b'maisai, not while he's alive and not while he passes on. Ela oimer Abba Mori, Hayashem Aviv Oishem Rabbi, Kishem Acherim. If let's say your father's name or your Rebbe's name is the same as someone else's name, Mishana es Shemam, you have to change the name. If your father's name is Avram, you cannot call somebody Avram. It's Asr. Do we paskin like that? Yes. Do we? The Rambam says one little qualification. Yirali she'ein nizar b'kach ela b'shem shehu pele she'ein akol doshin boy. Aval hashema shekarn b'hem es ha'am k'goyin Avram Yitzchak v'Yakov Moshe v'Yotzben b'chol lashon b'chol zman kar b'hen la'acherem. The only halacha that you're not allowed to call somebody by your father's name is if he has some kind of unusual name. Let's say his name is Neil Armstrong. I don't know. Let's say he has some kind of unusual kind of description. Then you can call someone else by that name. But a regular name, then you could call other people Shaloi Bifanav. In other words, if your father's name is Avram, you cannot call someone Avram in his presence. If your father's name is Yitzchak, you can't call someone Yitzchak in his presence. But you could call someone Yitzchak not in his presence. But not in his presence, you cannot call if he has some kind of unusual Shem Pele. So there's a Sefer on Shas called Be'er Sheva of Rabbi Yisachar Dov Eilenberg, a Kadmoin. He quotes the Aruch, who brings the opposite shot, that really his name was Nachmeni and he called him Abayei because he didn't want to say his name. And the Be'er Sheva asks, V'kasha li al perushai, hi gufa time Abayei. Lama loy kori le kol shaita Nachmeni b'shem aviv. Why would he not call Abayei by his name? Says the Be'er Sheva, it must be the Aruch holds like the Rambam. In Perek Vav in Hilchos Mamrim, Haya Shem Aviv Kishem Acherem, Mishana es Shemam. And then the Rambam says it's only a problem if it's a Shem Pele. And Nachmeni, now is Nachmeni a Shem Pele? So the Be'er Sheva says no, it's not a Shem Pele. And Shaloi B'fanav, he would call it to him. That's why the Aruch says, Loi hava kari le kol shaita. Sometimes he would. Sometimes he would call him. Why? Because it's not a Shem Pele. So it's not a Shem Pele. It's okay. Shaloi B'fanav. Rashi says, no, Rabba Bar Nachmeni raised Abayei. So he does not hold at all of this din that the Rambam says. Hayashem aviv kishem achirim mishanesh shmam. Rashi doesn't hold of this din. Rashi says we don't find in the Gemara only that you should not call your father by his name b'chayv v'moisai. But even that others sheshmam kishem aviv, you should not call their name. We don't find any makar in Shas. So in other words, according to the Be'er Sheva, are you allowed to call someone else by your father's name? The Ran says yes. Rashi says yes. The Rashbam says yes. The only one who says no is the Aruch. And even the Aruch, the din that you're not to call somebody by their name, Shaloi b'fanav, is only if it's a shem pella. If it's not a shem pella, it's not a problem, and that's why Rabbah, in fact, would call Abayei sometimes Nachmeni. So halacha l'maisa, in your father's presence, you cannot. It is usher to call somebody by his exact same name. Not in his presence, you could call somebody by their name, as long as it's not a shem pella. And there is a custom in Yiddish that if somebody has the same name as your father, you call them Abayei, basically. You call them Tatala. So I mean that's really a chumrah, because shaloi b'fanav you are allowed to. All right? So that's the first topic.